So I guess we can get started with meeting. We've got quorum. One item on the agenda, which consider the Friends Group policy.
I would love to. So the Friends Group policy is really a great opportunity to provide clear guidance to groups who we really want to help do the best that they can in terms of fulfilling their passion within village projects and areas that we have work to be done in. And really all it does is provide some guardrails and then gives community members an opportunity to read through what the expectations are when working together so that nobody's surprised. Like special event permits, the village requested our liability insurer to provide a recommendation on coverage from Friends Groups. Attorney Bayer also weighed in, and I provided a copy of his correspondence within your packet to try to seek a balance of between coverage and reasonableness, because Friends Groups typically generate out of just the passion to do good. But there are some things that we need to make everybody aware of from a liability perspective. So I think that Attorney Bayer's recommendations were well put, and those were incorporated within the donation or pardon me, Friends Groups contributions policy that's before you. So at the beginning, we start out on page 1. We go through a purpose of what is a Friends Group, what does that mean? In essence, non-traditional source of support and a mechanism for overcoming some of the limitations that we face as local government. Groups can take advantage of marketplace opportunities without having to wait on the village budget allocation or utilization of the village's procurement process. And, while the contributions or donations may be provided directly to the village, Friends Groups can make it possible to apply for some grants and take advantage of other opportunities that may not be afforded to a local government. So we go through a brief process. We have the Friends Group submit a Friends Group contribution form, of which walks them through some questions so that they can provide us with some feedback. They would then meet with me to review the request. And that's always helpful because I'm usually at the 30,000 foot level, have that view of what's going on. Is there synergy in any other areas? Is there something planned next year that they should be aware of? And then we would schedule a review of that contribution from the Friends Group with the Community and Business Relations Committee within 60 days of completion of the submission. And then I have in here just the exception, if the proposed contributions or activities that do not require a third-party contractor. An example would be, a group removing invasive species or doing trash collection on the beach, that myself or my designee can approve a request without sending it to this committee and to the board. Because of course, my goal here is not to add any type of red tape that we don't have to add. That's always my desire, I guess, when I'm looking at a process. If it does require third-party contracting, the Community and Business Relations would review the request, provide a recommendation to the board, and then the village board considers whether it's in alignment with our initiatives for that year and then the policy here. Again, in addition to the policy, we have a Friends Group acknowledgement form. It talks about insurance requirements for third-party contractors. And then I give you a brief sample of what the Friends Group contribution form, what questions would be asked on that, and that would be the form that would be submitted to me. My goal here is to make this also all web-based. So you just need to type in your responses to these questions online and hit send, then it will come straight to me.
Yeah, I looked it over. It looks pretty straightforward, reasonable, common sense policy. And, it's important to get sign off from our insurers and our attorney as well. So that's all in order. I thought it looked good. Do you have any other discussion about it, Arthur?
I think we need to approve everything. The list.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't put that in here. I'm happy that you mentioned it. If there was something that was approved without coming to the committee or the board, what I would do is then list it under the scope of my village manager's report. Because one of the things we want to do is celebrate, the work that is going on in the community. So we want to keep that visible. And I apologize, I didn't have that within here. But that would be the intention.
Historical perspective. Is there any kind of previous discussions about this in the past? We're just getting here now. Talk about the past, or never happened, any kind of context.
One of the reasons why it's coming to you is because there's been lack of clarity. So in the absence of clarity, I think groups or individuals start with different expectations with regards to their contribution and then the feasibility of our involvement or lack of involvement because of just the operations that we focus on here. We're focused first on core services and then it goes out from there. But not everything can happen all at once. So again, it just kind of sets the table in terms of how we can work with you most productively so that as we go through it, we all have that understanding.
I'm sorry, trustee Ursink, we can't hear you.
Oh,
Sorry, I forgot that you
Thank
got
you.
microphones at this point. I really apologize about that, Chris. I assume it's coming to us predominantly because of the nature preserve and the work that's going on down there. Is that a reason, or is this just a bigger sort of, let's get this?
This has been
It's
on the
done.
radar since 2022. As you all know, future items of consideration are worked on and then scheduled as time permits and the other initiatives being worked on are, when we have gaps in that schedule. So that's why you're seeing it come to this group now. So not prompted by Friends of the Nature Preserve, but I think would also be helpful for them because they've asked for the guidance.
Mhm.
We've also had we have different friends groups such as Friends of Atwater Beach. I'm not sure if there's been others in the past, but there has been generally a request to know how to proceed with something. So
Mhm.
this puts it in queue of a process that I think is reasonable and then can be discussed with me and then also with the board as a group.
That's great. And just kind of the last question is, how is this going to work on the website? I know there's a lot going on our website. We've added a lot of new things like the dog poop bag, dispensers. And, so we're really kind of working on improving our website. How is this going to work on the website?
We would have a landing page and then, a form that could be easily completed so
Okay.
that you don't have to pick something up in person. You have to drop something off and sign it. I just want it to be as easy as possible.
And then you had mentioned it last time we spoke about this of potentially bullet pointing or having items that are like highlighted that we actually need funds for. Is that still part of this?
Yes, so that would be associated with the donations policy. We'll have these 3 opportunities of ways to pay it forward in Shorewood, donations, friends group, and then activities on the volunteer committees. Pardon me.
No, I think this is a really fantastic idea. I think it's look forward to moving this forward and excited to get this moving. I know there's a lot of groups in Shorewood that want to contribute, so this is going to be a sort of a perfect addition to what we already have going on.
Awesome.
Looks like there's no public comment or no one else tuned in, so you have a motion?
Oh, yeah, sure. So I move to approve policy 47, Friends Group Contributions to the Village Board.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's it.
All right. I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, meeting adjourned at 6:44 PM.
We got about 15 minutes before.
Yes.
These machines. Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Public Works Committee. Has this meeting been publicly noticed? Fantastic. Tonight, present are trustees. Blanked on your name, Matt. I'm sorry, Trustee Matt McGovern, and Trustee Kudo is absent this evening. We have one item on our agenda. It's to consider the 2025 Capitol Drive Initiative. We also have to present this initiative is Director of Public Works, Leanne Butchlick. Leanne, would you like to fill us in on this particular topic?
Sure.
Thank you.
So your packet includes a draft request for a new village initiative form. You'll recall that there's been fairly significant discussion regarding enhancements or improvements to pedestrian safety in the Capitol Drive corridor following a group resident traffic and parking request in July of 2023. This initiative form follows the process that is set up for new projects or initiatives, followed by the village's committees. And it would put this in queue in front of the village board for approval for naming Capitol Drive as a 2025 initiative.
Fantastic. So the scope of what we're tasked to this evening is to move ahead with this request, this initiative request. And we have these three items on the request form. One is to consider a request to WSDOT, Bureau of Operations, to advance speed limit reduction request, which was it's currently at 30, and we're trying to request it down to 20 miles per hour. We also are going to talk about we also are including develop direction to staff for pavement marking frequency and type, as well as to consider modifications to existing streetscape to improve visibility. So those are the three items that we're putting on this request form. Matt, do you have any sort of thoughts or comments based on these items?
Yeah, I'm wondering if add that as well. Request to bump outs, or a lot of residents have asked for, but it's not. They have in the city of Milwaukee, Capitol Drive's got a lot of new bump outs and traffic calming measures, and I'm just wondering if we can make that request formally as a village to the DOT to add some things like that that are really proven to be more effective than paint and better visibility like that.
As I understand it, the village can submit a request for the DOT to approve the installation of those, but the DOT would not install them, nor would they fund them. That would be entirely a village initiative. So that could certainly be part of the initiative process, would be to review placement of of additional curb extensions in the corridor. I think during the part of the initial conversations that we had, the corridor in question, there are only 2 locations that do not have curb extensions now that could feasibly have them. That was part of the 2010 design and construction. Most of those areas do already have curb extensions. As I mentioned, there is not an extension on the northeast corner of Bartlett and Capitol. That decision was made at that time to not include an extension there because of the parking impact that it would have. Same goes for the extension on the post office side of Bartlett. But as you go down up through Morris, the other major crossings already have curb extensions.
Leanne, I wonder if we, because this has been talked about, I wonder if we could get kind of a snapshot or synopsis of those discussions, maybe for a future committee meeting, so we can kind of brief Matt on that.
Sure, I can pull together the items that have already been distributed to the board for previous meetings.
Yeah, I'm still wondering though, if we can get, you know, a cost estimate or just something that the board can consider as to whether we should do it or not.
Yeah, I think that would be part of what you would discuss as the initiative.
Right, okay.
Is that feasible to add that onto this list?
Sure, we can, yep.
Matt, any other suggestions?
No, that's it.
Okay, so it does look like we have a couple residents that have joined us for this evening. Would be open to taking comments from those folks if interested. If anybody is out there and has something that they'd like to add or discuss as a part of this initiative request, please go ahead and raise your hand. Looks like Mr. Pendleton is at least not unmuted, but is on video here. So I assume that he has something he'd like to discuss. There he goes.
Good evening, Sandy Pendleton, 3529 North Frederick Avenue in Shorewood. I serve on the Parks and Public Spaces Committee and the Ped Bike Subcommittee. I favor this as being an initiative for 2025. I hope you all will endorse that and move it up to the village board. Personally, I think the ship has sailed on the issue of trying to get WSDOT to reduce the posted speed limit from 30 miles to 25 miles per hour. I think we cut bait on that, and we put that on a list for sometime in 1929 or 1930 to revisit that issue, and at that time approach the design of the speed study in a different way than we did this time. That's my only comments. Thank you for your service. Thanks for listening to my comments tonight.
Thank you, Cindy. Always appreciate your thoughts and feedback. Does anybody else have any comments to share based on this request? I was just checking out but Trustee Sokbrand.
Thank you. I just came into the meeting a little late, so I just am wondering, this initiative, and I'm sorry I missed Mr. Pendleton's remarks. Is there anything here about possibly?
He's in favor of the remarks.
Oh, okay.
He wants to not proceed with the speed limit through WSDOT conversation. He'd like to take that off the table and push that off into the future and focus on the other requests that are here. Trustee McGovern has requested that we add bump outs and or the discussion of bump outs on Capitol to this conversation or to this request as well.
I would question also, can we add a road diet? I think we've read about, have you already discussed this? National Avenue is going to go from 4 lanes to 2 each direction. Can we do that on Capitol Drive? Could we discuss that?
You can discuss that, certainly. That would have to be a request to the Department of Transportation. Based on what I think I know, the current traffic counts on Capitol Drive west of Oakland Avenue, I don't believe that they would approve a reduction in lanes because the traffic counts are too high.
Yeah, I mean, personally, just as a resident living over there, that is nothing that I would not want that at all in my neighborhood. There's already a lot of, sorry. Give me a shiver thinking about it. But I would not be interested in that particular item either.
I guess it seems, when you get guidance that WISDOT would have to approve it and they probably won't, do we just let it drop? I mean, that's kind of where we are with some of these other issues, like reducing the speed limit and
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we should-
removing pedestrian crosswalks. We hit the first level, we hit the first wall from staff saying WISDOT won't approve this. Then we go to WISDOT. WISDOT says, at this level, we can't approve it, but you have the option of going to the next level, right? Because you've already been told twice no. So I guess it's frustrating. It's like you can keep trying. It's just the time and the cost. I have a feeling that it's something that it'd be better to have the opportunity to have a more thorough discussion in the community about reducing those lanes. But it seems like we seem to have our hands tied unless we want to just keep trying and lobbying. And it's not completely impossible, but it's going to be very difficult. That's my understanding.
Have you ever been on Capitol Drive when there's been road work done and it has been one lane? That traffic is backed up so far and it's so incredibly frustrating to deal with that people will just be driving through neighborhoods and taking Wilson and it'll just be chaos in those surrounding neighborhoods. I don't think any of those residents are going to appreciate that whatsoever.
Well, I do remember that happening on Lake Drive. There was opposition to going from 4 to 2 lanes, but we did it. And
2 to 1 though is
Traffic counts on Lake Drive are significantly different than Capitol.
yeah, I think Capitol Drive is 20,000 vehicles a day. I don't know what,
It's less than 10.
listen. Okay.
I mean,
But-
maybe what I would just add is like, I don't know what the traffic, whether it's viable or not, but my understanding from DOT is that they're gonna probably towards the end of the decade, start planning the next servicing and it's not scheduled.
Of Capitol Drive? No, sir.
Okay, well, so maybe I'm wrong, but at
That-
some point they will be looking to, reconfigure a Capitol Drive and it's not anytime soon. So I don't think they would approve going from 4 to 2 anytime soon, but I've heard a lot of requests about doing something with Capitol Drive along. So maybe it's something that the board should look at as part of this drive initiative. There are a lot of roads that are going from bike lane, making it, just a nice amenity. I don't think we should take it off the table when it sounds like all we're discussing right now, whether to have this initiative for 2020, correct? So maybe we should just keep an open mind as far as what it actually looks
My fear is though, if we don't delineate it specifically, we won't have any pursuit of that. So do we know from WISDOT that they would consider bump outs and curb extension? Additional one? We've been,
My recollection is that in their response to our submission of the 13-point request from the resident group, they did not rule out the addition of bump outs. As I noted earlier, in the corridor that we're discussing from Morris to the Capitol to Bartlett, we actually have bump outs in nearly every location that they can exist. We cannot have bump outs on the south side of the roadway because there's no parking lane there. So any bump out would eliminate the bike lane. WISDOT will not approve that. So the only place that we can put bump outs would be on the north side of the roadway, in the westbound traffic lanes. And we do already have bump outs at Morris and at Newhall. Woodburn, I believe, is not considered a major crossing. The other major crossing would be considered Bartlett. And in 2010, there was a decision made not to put bump outs at Bartlett because of the impact that it would have on parking in front of the post office and in front of the businesses on the east side of that block.
And so do we have them at Newhall?
We do have them at Newhall.
So we could add them. I mean, anytime you add a curb extension, give a visual cue that to drivers that they need to slow down. So I would encourage, adding any bump outs that we possibly.
That would be a differing shift in policy. To this point, we have been trying to funnel pedestrians to key and strategic crossing locations, not every crossing location.
Mhm.
So you can certainly do that, but again, that is a shift in policy from things that we've done on Capitol Drive, on Wilson Drive, on Lake Drive. Your prerogative certainly, but be aware that is different than what you have done in the past.
Yeah, and I would advocate for that change. I think since the state won't let us remove the crosswalks and funnel pedestrian traffic to fewer crossings, then we should try to protect every crossing that we can. I also would ask that we consider adding fences on medians. I don't see that here. I know they're on Capitol Drive West River, and I would specifically like to see that added right in front of the post office on Bartlett. I have seen multiple times people crossing there, and I don't see fences in medians added here. And I think WISDOT did not.
I did not list those. That wasn't really something that had been talked about in previous conversations. It was part of that resident request.
It was,
It was.
I believe.
What's the point of a fence?
Typically, that barrier is installed to prohibit pedestrians from crossing outside of a crosswalk.
Mhm.
So if the board feels that that is a significant issue, then I would look to do that. If not, I would recommend that you do not.
It was mentioned in the Strand report.
What's the upkeep on fences like that? Is that pretty
So
much?
for purposes of the discussion tonight,
Yep,
I'm
you're
just
right.
want to rein it
Thank
in a
you.
little bit
Thank you.
because we do have JP&L and I need to do that from this room as well. Just because I'm the one staff member here. But so I think we have the initiative down. What I would recommend at this point, I think that there's support for moving it forward. There could be a motion to that.
Yeah, I
effect.
would just say that, to the things that Trustee Stockbrenner is bringing up here, we do have part of this request is to consider modifications to existing streetscape to improve visibility, develop direction to staff for pavement markings and frequency and type. So there are elements in here that we will continue to look to do to improve Capitol Drive. But from there, this is what we're tasked to approve tonight. We're also making the addition to look into the bump outs. So that is what we'll be adding to this initiative request.
Is there a motion?
Yes. Make a motion here. Let me just get to it. So I move that the Public Works Committee recommend a 2025 initiative to review Capitol Drive pedestrian improvements.
Second.
All in favor? Any more discussion?
Will this come before the full board yet?
Yes.
Thank you.
Aye. It looks like this passed. When will we see this at the full board? Any
Next
idea?
meeting.
Next meeting. Okay, thank you.
And just,
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
meeting adjourned at 7:18. Thank you.
Yeah, one lane for Capitol. The residents